In the early hours of March 18, 1990, Boston was unusually quiet. It was the end of a long St. Patrick's Day weekend, and most of the city was asleep. At exactly 2:30 a.m., two men walked up to the entrance of the Isabella Stewart Gardner Museum. They were dressed as police officers, wearing hats, badges, and what appeared to be standard uniforms. Nothing about them seemed suspicious. They rang the museum's security bell and calmly told the guard on duty that they were responding to a disturbance call. Inside, the young guard hesitated. Museum policy strictly forbade letting anyone inside after hours, even the police. But the men outside looked official, sounded confident, and knew exactly what to say. After a brief pause, the guard made a decision that would change art history forever. He opened the door. Within moments, the two men stepped inside and revealed their true intentions. This was not a routine police visit. It was a robbery. The guards were handcuffed, blindfolded with duct tape, and led into the basement. For the next 81 minutes, the thieves had complete control of the museum. No alarms were triggered. No calls were made. No one outside noticed anything wrong. When the sun came up that morning, 13 priceless works of art were gone. More than 30 years later, none of them have ever been recovered. The Isabella Stewart Gardner Museum was never designed to be a fortress. It was designed to feel personal, elegant, and intimate. Its founder, Isabella Stewart Gardner, was a wealthy art collector who believed art should be experienced like it was in a private home, not locked behind glass and alarms. When the museum opened in 1903, it reflected that philosophy perfectly. Paintings hung low, rooms were quiet, and visitors felt like guests rather than tourists. But that beauty came at a cost. By 1990, the museum's security was dangerously outdated. There were no motion sensors inside the galleries, no surveillance cameras monitoring the artwork, and no alarm systems directly connected to the police. The museum relied almost entirely on human guards and basic door alarms. Even more concerning, the night shift was usually staffed by only 2 guards, often young and relatively inexperienced. Experts would later say that the museum was one of the easiest high-value targets imaginable. It held hundreds of millions of dollars worth of art, yet it operated on trust rather than technology. The thieves who planned the heist understood this perfectly. They didn't need advanced tools or weapons. All they needed was confidence, timing, and the ability to exploit a system that assumed no one would ever dare to try. Once the guards were restrained, the thieves began moving through the museum with surprising calm. They didn't rush. They didn't panic. They went directly to specific galleries, particularly the Dutch Room, where some of the most valuable works were displayed. There, they removed paintings by Rembrandt, including works valued at tens of millions of dollars. They also took a rare Vermeer and several Degas sketches. In total, 13 pieces were stolen. But what confused investigators from the very beginning was what the thieves chose not to take. Some of the most valuable and famous works in the museum were left untouched. Other paintings that would have been easier to sell were ignored completely. In some cases, the thieves cut canvases directly out of their frames, leaving the frames hanging empty on the walls. This act shocked the art world, as it permanently damaged priceless works. These choices suggested something important. This was not a random burglary. The thieves appeared to know exactly what they were looking for, and they were confident enough to leave behind pieces that didn't fit their plan. Art experts and investigators began to believe that whoever planned the heist had studied the collection in detail. This wasn't just about money. It was about targeting specific works for a specific reason, a reason that has never been fully explained. When the morning shift arrived at the museum around 8:15 a.m., they immediately noticed something was wrong. The front desk was unattended, and no one answered their calls. Eventually, they found the guards tied up in the basement. They were shaken but unharmed. Police were called immediately, but by then the thieves had been gone for hours. The FBI took over the investigation and launched one of the most extensive art crime investigations in history. Over the years, they followed countless leads. They explored connections to organized crime in Boston, suspected that the paintings might have been used as bargaining chips in criminal deals, and even investigated international smuggling rings. At various points, investigators believed the artworks were hidden somewhere in New England. At other times, they believed the pieces had been moved overseas. Several key suspects died before they could be fully questioned. Others refused to cooperate. Informants came forward with tips that led nowhere. Every promising lead eventually collapsed under closer examination. Decades passed, and still, nothing was recovered. The case became a maze of theories, half-truths, and unanswered questions, with no solid evidence strong enough to close the investigation. Today, the Gardner Museum remains open, and the empty frames still hang on the walls where the stolen paintings once were. They serve as a silent reminder of what was lost and of the mystery that remains unsolved. The FBI insists the case is still active, and the reward for information leading to the recovery of the artworks has grown to $10 million. Some believe the paintings were destroyed shortly after the heist to eliminate evidence. Others believe they are hidden in a private collection, unseen by the world, waiting for the right moment to resurface. More than 3 decades later, no one knows for sure. The Gardner Museum heist is often described as the perfect crime: no violence, no arrests, and no clear answers. Whether the thieves were brilliant masterminds or simply benefited from extraordinary luck remains an open question. What is certain is that somewhere, whether in a vault, a basement, or a forgotten storage room, the truth still exists. And until the paintings are found, the mystery remains alive.